All right. We're all settled, all ready for Windows Live. When I think about business in general, there's really two things that I think about. You need customers. Customers that come to you that are new customers. And then you need repeat customers. Customers that you have some loyalty with that always come back. In the website world, the way I think about this is visitors, so attracting new users, and then residents, people that live on your website and always come back. Who's a developer in the room? Most people developers? Yeah. So at the risk of sounding like Steve Ballmer, developers have a huge amount of power. Developers are king. You guys build the awesome experiences that engage users. So look at what we saw in the keynote today with the NBC Olympics or the Hard Rock Cafe. That's a really deep, engaging experience. And you guys build that. But what you often don't get credit for is acquiring new users to your property. So getting new visitors on your website. The Windows Live platform can help you build compelling experiences, adding great, deep features to keep users on your site. And what you get for free, well, as a side note of implementing this functionality, is the ability to attract new visitors to your site. So be able to engage new visitors using the social connections. What I'm going to be covering today is how you can develop on the Windows Live platform. Just to level set really quickly, you may have seen some announcements about the Microsoft Online Services business or CRM Live, any of those services. The team I come from is the Windows Live platform team. Windows Live is Microsoft's services for consumers. So things like Hotmail, Spaces, Windows Live Photo Gallery. These are consumer services for sharing and communicating with your friends and family. All of the other services like CRM Live, the online services, those are business-focused services. So what I'm going to be focusing on is Windows Live. If you came for CRM Live, you may want to go and check out another session. The things I'll be drilling on is really giving you an overview of the Windows Live platform. What is it? How can you start working with it? So where do you go and get resources? What websites do you need to go to? What developer tools have we got for you to start coding? I'm going to go end-to-end on a demo website. I've grabbed some random website off the internet, and I'm going to liveify it. I'm going to add a lot more features to it to make it a more engaging website. I'll give you an overview of the platform. And firstly, what I want to do is show you a demo of what's possible. So if you're going to leave the session, stick around for at least 5 minutes, because I'm sure this demo is going to be good. We've managed to convince some of our friends from Coca-Cola and Full Six to sneak some software and some demo stuff out of the lab in France and London. So what I want to do is just hand over to them to really show what they've done with the Windows Live platform and how it can affect their business. Do you guys want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, my name is Miguel. I work for the Coca-Cola company in the interactive marketing team in Europe. We're going to show you today a sneak preview of something we're preparing for the Euro 2008 campaign. That's a huge football tournament, or soccer, this part of the world tournament happening in Europe. And we're doing a lot of cool stuff with these guys at Full Six, and we're going to give you an overview of that today.
Let's talk.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, we're having switching issues here. All right, go.
Let's talk.
Okay. So.
You give me Dellas, Aurelio, and Cavecci.
Yeah, okay, great.
I let you have Gattuso and De Rossi.
But I want Buffon too.
Again?
Yeah.
But I gave it to you last week.
I know, but I've already exchanged it.
I'm warning you, this is the last time.
Yeah.
It's time to trade with your friends.
Thanks.
Collect all the best players stickers of UEFA Euro 2008 with Panini and Coke on Euro2008album.com.
Right, so maybe you've seen what this is about already. Do you remember these stickers we used to collect when we were younger? And then probably here in the US, it was more baseball stickers. In countries like in Europe, it's been football stickers. I remember when I was younger, like collecting stickers, getting them traded. The ultimate goal was to finish up the album, but the reward was on the journey, like finding who had the card I was missing, you know, opening up the envelopes and see, do I have this one double, make some friends, get some contacts, get those stickers traded, and finally finishing up the thing. So what we're doing here, partnering with Microsoft, is we're building that strong and passionate offline experience into the online world. And we're doing that with the help of MSN Messenger. So if you think about international football, it's got the power to connect different people together. If you think about it, it's a sports event that sets people apart by the color of their national teams, the idea is to win by defeating the other team, but at the same time, it gets people connected around their passion for football. It's something that people enjoy, they have fun with their friends or new people that they meet. And when you think about it, it's also some of those attributes that are present on the DNA of the brand, like Coca-Cola. So that's a very natural link for us to play with. Panini's got a huge heritage into this. They've been doing this since 1961. And still today is the big part of their business, the online sticker collection. So people, when they grow up, what we've been seeing preparing this program is people still have this thing in themselves. When we talk to them about, you know, the trading stickers, they turn on, they go back to that great experience that they used to have. So the idea is to get the trading experience out to the world via the online messenger. Damon will show you in a minute how the idea is to get people to trade with their friends and bring that passionate connection around football on the online experience. These guys at Full Six have been working with us on this. You think about it, we have a concept that involves Messenger, the world's largest social platform in the world, football, international football through the Euro tournament, Panini with a heritage, and a brand like Coke. Combining these things together is a very powerful combination. So these guys, Damon has been leading the team at Full Six that have been putting together a brilliant creative concept, and he's leading the team behind it, putting a lot of time and brain power into making this thing happening on a very aggressive timeline. He's going to show you a bit about how the application works and what we're trying to achieve with it.
And before giving you a sneak preview of what the website will look like, just for you to understand what we try to do here with Windows Live Messenger, is not just a website with a big news, which is now you can have your buddy list, your friend list appearing into the website and showing some big experience within a browser. But what we aim to do is a big platform where people can, as you have just understood, like trade player cards within a browser with a big immersive experience, but also into their Messenger client with some branding into your contact list and an artificial intelligent bot being able to help you to trade and to find the card you want that your buddy have and push it to you, plus push some like advertising from Coke and Panini saying, okay, if you are the first one to complete your album, you win some like a final ticket and so on. We also have, of course, a mobile platform. So if you are on the go, you can keep playing and seeing your cards on your mobile. It's just a WAP-based platform, so you can see it whatever you are, a very cool iPhone or a very basic Nokia. And of course, we are going to push the craze around this campaign with some like treasure hunt through offline and online media. Using and leveraging every contact point that are for teenagers, not especially just offline and big 30-second TV ad, but way more deep experience into Windows Live messaging, online gaming using Windows advertising solution like Massive, and of course mobile powered campaign. So this is just a preview. It's not the final mock-up, of course, of how it will look like. So basically, you land into a website and you first choose your language. As you see, you're already into a Windows Live Messenger-like interface, and you almost have no button on the website. Because the whole experience, you get your new player cards, you choose the team, and you open the album to scroll and to be able to put your cards and stick your player cards into each team. Of course, you will have a better experience than offline experience because you have the statistics and real-life data from the field on the album ongoing during the game. And here for Italy, for example, you will just try and look what you just got. You have three main areas. You have one trading place. I'm going to go back there. You have one contact list where in gray are the people who are not connected into the game, and in red are the people already connected and ready to play with you in the game. And if you click on it, you have a chat window where you can start bartering, chatting, negotiating to get the player you want. So you take your player. Don't have it already, you just stick it in your album and you start your collection. But on your pack, you have also double. So if you don't want to keep them, you don't stick it there, and you are going to take the player and just roll over the trading place, which we call the marketplace, and you drag and drop it there. Okay. As soon as you do that, it goes everywhere on the platform. It goes through all your buddies saying you want to trade this player. It goes on a Facebook application, RSS feed saying, hey, Damon is wanting to trade this player. If you want to have it, just go ahead. And if people want to contact you, they just, or trade a card with you, they just chat with you. They negotiate. You say, okay, I want the card. So you just go, you catch your card from your album or from your pack, and you drag and drop it into the conversation. And with a secure link, boom, you get the property of the card. So this is pretty basic in terms of ergonomy, as that's how we want to stick. But it enhances the online experience and gives you a way more attractive way to chat with your friend and to have fun online.
Where do the cards come from?
Sorry?
Where do you get the card from?
Oh, actually, you have 2 or 3 ways to get the card. The first one will be just playing online, seeing some banners online, clicking on it, and you get the welcome pack of 4. You can invite more friends. If you invite more friends with viral effect, then you get more cards. And you will find during the ongoing game on online and offline advertising some secret code. If you just go back to your messenger and you put the code into your messenger, you will get some free packs of cards.
Good. So as you can see, an application that's going to cross borders very, very quickly. Initially, we thought about this application for Europe, for the European campaign. But once we kind of socialized the idea within the Coca-Cola system, it's gone pretty wide. So markets still to be confirmed as the campaign gets materialized. But it looks like it's going to go into Central and South America, Asia. The European tournament has huge audience numbers outside of Europe. So this we expect to be going out very quickly. The team around it, so the guys at Full Six are putting the whole thing into reality. We've been very lucky to partner with Panini. They own the concept. It's huge heritage. When you mention the name in countries that had football tradition, it resonates very strongly. Definitely Windows Live Messenger is going to give this idea, the concept, a reach which we don't understand yet, how the potential of this, and we believe is just huge. And then UEFA, the European Football Association, as owners of the property of the Euro tournament, have been working very closely with us on this. And definitely then Microsoft Advertising Solutions, we're putting different advertising packages for the countries that are going to be activating, and it's going to be very much integrated into their whole MSN platform. So when is this going to be ready? Everything is in the lab yet. Everything you've seen here is work in development, and the website will hopefully go live beginning of May. So stay tuned for that and have fun and play with us.
But hopefully it will go live in May.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
So we've seen how Coke could build a really immersive experience, taking an offline scenario and bringing that online, and then using the social connections of their consumers and the Windows Live consumers to really grow this kind of concept virally. Now you've seen what's possible, I want to tell you about how we think about the Windows Live platform. There's really 5 key buckets of services. The first of these are unauthenticated services, so things where we don't really need to know who the visitor is. And the way I like to think about this is, in Windows Live, we have massive data centers, huge data centers. And there's a lot of data that we store in those data centers that you may want to access at some point, but there's no way you're ever going to want to store all of this data locally. So let's take a search index, for example. We search or we crawl the internet with the Windows Live search engine. The Live search engine. And we've wrapped an API around that. So if you want to build a search experience into your website, you can just call our API, and you can use the data that we have in our data center to enrich your website. That goes the same for Virtual Earth. We have 15 petabytes of mapping information. At some point, you may want to include a map on your website, but you wouldn't really want to kind of download and install all 15 petabytes of that data. Although I'll urge you to go and see Chris Pendleton's session on Virtual Earth, because he may argue the counterpoint of that. But these two services are very much us having a massive amount of computing power and space, and you being able to leverage the service that we have in the cloud. The next buckets are authenticated services, so things where we know who the user is. So for all of these authenticated services, we use Windows Live ID as really the one point of authentication or identity in the Windows Live ecosystem. In fact, this is across all Microsoft properties. Windows Live ID was formerly known as Passport, except there's been quite a few big technical changes and business changes. So now, if you are implementing a lot of Windows Live services on your website, you can very easily, within a matter of minutes, go and sign up to add Windows Live ID authentication onto your site. And the reach of Windows Live ID is about 400 million active users per month that have Live IDs. So there are benefits around them not needing to create additional identities or them getting automatic sign-in to the rest of the Windows Live services. Once we know who the visitor is or who the consumer is, there's a lot of data that a user can store in the Windows Live ecosystem. So this is things like their address book. So in Windows Live Messenger and Windows Live Hotmail, there is a unified address book. It's called Live Contacts. And there's a huge amount of contacts there, about 70 contacts per user that has an address book. All of that information can be accessed on different websites. And I'm going to show you how to go and implement this. We've also got a couple of experimental services, so community technology previews that you can build into your website for experimental purposes. So this is Windows Live Photos, where a user could upload photos from their PC, so using Windows Live Photo Gallery, or using a camera such as a camera with an iFi card that gets automatically loaded into Windows Live Spaces. And then they could go to another website and access all of those photos. Or if they upload a photo to a certain website, it could be uploaded to Windows Live Spaces and then accessed from another website. So all of these services enable data portability. When I upload information into the cloud, I want to be able to access that in lots of different ways. And we've been thinking long and hard about how we do this in a really safe and secure way for end users. And I'll show you some of the technology behind that. The next bucket is notifications and messaging, being able to communicate and stay connected with your friends and family. So Windows Live Messenger is a massive asset for us. We've got about 300 million users per month that sign into Windows Live Messenger. And there's a lot of different devices that it works on. So mobile devices, now websites, the rich client, works on a Mac. So there's a lot of different things we can do there. But on top of Windows Live Messenger, we've built out quite a few services. So Windows Live Alerts is one service that you may or may not be aware of, where it's a different way of communicating with your consumers. So right now, we all receive too much email. I get like 600 emails in my inbox per day. But what I don't get a lot of is maybe SMS. Or I don't get a lot of Toast, so real-time pop-ups in the Windows Live Messenger client. So if I'm working on a website, for example, or if I'm a user of a website and some event happens on that site, I could get drawn back in just by having a Toast pop up in the Windows Live Messenger client. And we've got this implemented on several Microsoft properties, but there's a public API for you to call to implement Windows Live Alerts. And then Windows Live Agents is an automated responder, like an intelligent artificial intelligence bot, where you could have a conversation and it could provide information and then have a fun experience with your consumers. The last bucket of services we think about are infrastructure services. These services that aren't really bound to a user as well. So Windows Live Admin Center allows you to take a slice of the Windows Live services and manage them. So create live IDs via an API, co-brand the Windows Live services, put your logo up in the top corner of like SkyDrive or Hotmail. So Windows Live Admin Center allows you to manage that experience. But I think what most of you are probably interested in is Silverlight streaming by Windows Live, where we've said to developers or content producers, here's a chunk of space in our data center and across the content distribution network. You can upload your Silverlight applications or your Silverlight applications with their media. And then when your visitors spin up that Silverlight application, they get the content at high speed. So it comes off the content distribution network at about 1.4 terabits per second. I don't know who has that kind of bandwidth in their server farm, but really what we're doing is saying what's ours is yours. Put your content in our data center and we will give your visitors the best experience of getting that information. All of these services are held together with a common terms of service, and you can go to dev.live.com/terms to really drill on this, but the basic premise is that it's free up until a point. So most websites that use Windows Live services, it will be free. But the number we kind of measure at right now is 1 million unique users. So if your website, who gets more than 1 million UUs per month? Just out of interest. Yeah, there's not many hands going up. I think there's about 5,000 sites in the world that get more than 1 million UUs. If you go over 1 million UUs, then we have an exchange of value, which could either be monetary or advertising based. And right now we haven't locked all of this down. But if you don't get more than 1 million UUs, then a lot of these services you can use for free. Asterisks. Go to dev.live.com/terms to confirm all of this. Now, if you've been following the Windows Live platform, since MIX07, we've made a lot of progress. We've taken a lot of our existing services and progressed these from alpha to beta. So it means that there's more scale behind them. It means that there's going to be less breaking changes or minimal breaking changes. And we're feeling confident with this service moving forward. We've announced a lot of APIs around Windows Live Messenger, which is a huge asset for us. So for us to open this up is a big step in terms of the APIs and the experiences that you can create. We've started standardizing a lot of our frameworks and protocols. So you may have seen the press last week that we've called out Atom Publishing Protocol as the way forward. So the standard that a lot of Microsoft services are going to be prescribing, or they're going to be creating services for. And also one standard framework for delegated authentication. So how visitors or users can safely and securely grant access to their content. And there's a lot of previews. For the people that are really into technology, here are some previews that we don't really want you to go live on, but we would love your feedback. And what we want to give you is a heads up on the future direction we may be taking. So there's some developer tools. There's a photo API and application-based storage, which is a configuration and setting storage. So now that I've given you a dump on what the platform is, let's drill into how we can enhance a website. So I've downloaded a website from the net. This is called Background Motion. It's just a standard ASP.NET site. It's a photo and video sharing site. I can upload photos. They implemented some Windows Live technology from last year. I can geotag those photos, and then I can see them all on the site. If I wanted to invite a friend to this site today, what I'd need to do is be on the site, open Windows Live Messenger or AIM or any other IM client, and then paste in the URI and say, hey, you should really come and check out this site, check out my photo. Or I'd need to get open my email client, write an email to someone saying, hey, come over to this website. So it's a really kind of jarring process. What I want to show you is how you can grow the visitors to your site and then how you can deeply engage them by building residents, people that live on your website. So before we drill into too many services, before we add a whole lot of Windows Live capabilities to this site, the first thing I'm going to do is add Windows Live ID as an authentication option. Now, this is absolutely optional, okay? I just want to be completely clear about that. You do not have to implement Windows Live ID as an authentication option. The reason that I'm implementing Windows Live ID is so when one of the 420 million users of Live ID comes to my site, they can sign in and they're automatically signed in to the rest of the Windows Live services. A side benefit of that is they can use their existing credentials and they get easy sign-in and they get reduced password fatigue. But the main benefit is single sign-on. When you authenticate into Windows Live, you get a cookie which signs you into the rest of these services. Now, as a developer, you just go out to a site, you put in your URI, and then you do a key exchange with us, and then we can redirect tokens back to your site when a user signs in. And there's a whole lot of SDKs available as well. We've got an ASP.NET SDK, we've got Ruby, PHP, Perl, Python, Java. Who develops in something that's not there, that isn't IronPython? Anyone? Power Builder. I don't know much about Power Builder. A lot of these, well, all of these SDKs are open source, so you can see the code. If there is something that, like a language that doesn't exist for this SDK, then you can easily build out your own wrapper for the Windows Live services. So it just uses encryption. The SDKs just wrap a whole lot of the encryption goo, and this is all based on open standards. So the way Windows Live ID works is a user clicks login on your site, and they get redirected out to this site. We're hardcore about security and privacy. So the reason we need users to come to login.live.com is so you never see their password. You don't even want to see their password. That's a bad scene all round. Login.live.com is the one place a Windows Live user should enter their Windows Live ID. They can get a list of all of the accounts they've got. They can choose to sign in with their password if they haven't saved their credentials, or they could choose to sign in with an information card. And there's a browser helper object that makes this a whole lot smoother. Now, who's a designer in the room? Are there any UX people in the room? Yeah, okay, so there's a couple at the back. Were they pulling a face like this? I couldn't see. A lot of people get shocked when they see that sign-in screen. They say, Angus, I'm on an awesome-looking website right now, and you're telling me to break the experience so my visitors can sign in with Live ID, and it's just a really jarring flow in terms of user experience. We've heard this feedback very loud and very often, and we absolutely want to provide the best user experience whilst balancing privacy and user security. So what we're doing in the future is we're enabling these scenarios that are absolutely possible today, but we just haven't opened the technology up for breadth adoption, for lots of developers to access. So let's take Zune, for example. Really sexy website. It's got its own brand. It's a very nice website. When you hit sign in, you're on login.live.com, but they've continued the brand across to this site. So right now this is possible, but it's not like a 5-minute solution. You don't just go out to the web and configure it. We're doing that in the future. There's a lot of websites on the net that's primarily run by Microsoft where we've gone and customized this sign-in screen. So Xbox, this sign-in screen doesn't really look anything like login.live.com, but it keeps the security and the privacy bar up so we can make sure that there's a great user experience, but the users are secure and safe. So I want to show you how to add Windows Live ID to my website. I'm just going to flip over to my demo machine here. Now, what we've done, I'm going to show you a couple of things. The first thing is what we've done with some developer tooling. So tools to make it easy for Microsoft-centric developers to use Windows Live services. All of the tools we have, all of the services we have, there's very minimal that don't apply to this, work across platform. So you could run this on PHP or Ruby or Perl, as well as you could run it on ASP.NET. But what we've done for Microsoft-centric developers is we've built a couple of development tools, like add-ins for Visual Studio. So I'm just going to choose to create a new project here, and I'll create a new website. And I've got a special project here called an ASP.NET Live website. It's just a standard ASP.NET AJAX site. When I jump into this site, I can go and open the default.aspx here. Now, if I flip into design mode, this is just a standard ASP.NET site. And what I want to do is add some Windows Live services. On the left-hand side here, we've got a toolbox full of Windows Live things that we can add. So things like a Silverlight streaming wrapper. So it just makes it really easy to add content from Silverlight streaming. A contact control wrapper, which is more of an experiment around how we can do client-side and server-side event blending. And the whole purpose of these is to make it super easy for Microsoft-centric developers, so .NET developers, to implement services from the Windows Live platform. All of our services are very JavaScript dependent. They're very like REST dependent. A lot of Microsoft developers don't have these skills. They have great skills in dragging and dropping update panels and dropping things on the canvas and configuring it there. So what we're doing is we're building on top of the paradigms that you already know. So I'm just going to add the the ID login status control to the canvas. Now the reason I want to show this is when I click on this smart tag here, when you need to implement Windows Live ID, you need to tell us what your website is. Who are you? What's a shared key for us to send encrypted tokens back and forward? So what we've done is just from within this IDE, there's a smart tag to tell Windows Live about you, register your application ID. And this browser is running within the IDE. So it's just running a Trident window within the IDE. So I can go and sign in, I can register my application, I could enter all of the credentials. I'm just setting up the return URL for where does it get posted back to. I can go and enter my shared secret that I share with this website. So all I'm doing is just registering my Windows Live services, and I can verify I'm a human. Hopefully I'm human. Okay, so what we've done is just registered, and that's really nothing special. But in the Windows Live tools, we actually mine the values out of the screen. So we mine the application IDs, we mine the application secret. So now when I hit OK, in my web.config, all of those values are automatically entered. Now, this may not seem super impressive, but this is a CTP. This is the way we're going with, like, in your dev environment, how do I go and do that registering in the cloud? Or in your dev environment, I've got some really JavaScript-intensive controls, and I want some server-side eventing on that. How do we move that forward? So the Windows Live tools for Microsoft Visual Studio are a future look at what we're doing around dev tools. And there's a CTP refresh that just rolled out either today or it's rolling out tomorrow. So to add Windows Live ID to the demo website, I went out and registered that identifier. And now if I choose to sign in as a normal user, I'll just sign in using forms-based authentication. Most of your websites today would run forms-based authentication. And we absolutely do not want you to say, all those creds, those credential pairs you have, let's move that to Live ID. What we want you to do, or what we think would provide the best experience if you're using Windows Live services, is associating the identities. So now I'm signed into this website. If I choose to sign in with Windows Live ID, then what it's done is it's associated the identities together. So if I sign out of this website now, and then I just hit the sign in button, the little Windows Live ID button here, then it automatically signs me in. So now your visitors can get one-click sign-in or like two-click, really easy sign-in. They don't need to remember another pair of credentials. You still own a set of credentials, and they get single signed in to Windows Live services. So in terms of the code for how this was built out, we just have a hyperlink out to the Windows Live login page. So login.live.com, we pass an app ID out to that service. Then what we do is we can handle the response. So there's a page on your site that handles a response. We post back to your site with an encrypted token. And we post back for things like logout. So if I sign into your site and then I go to live.com or I go to msn.com and I hit sign out, then we will ping back to your server saying drop the user's cookies or sign the user out, abandon that session. So it's kind of like a unified sign-in state. So all we do here is we just go and check that we process the login, so we get the Windows Live ID user object, and this is just using the Windows Live SDK. We check if the user is currently signed in, because if they're already signed in, then we're going to associate those two identities. And that's just done using a link query, and then we authenticate the user. So we take that Windows Live ID query, we just go and query our existing user base, we grab the user object, and then we log the user in. So that's all it is to implement Windows Live ID. And just to reiterate, we don't want to be your username and password store in the sky. What we think is the best user experience, if you're using a lot of Windows Live services, is a unified login, so a single login. When someone signs into your site with Windows Live ID, they get the cookies necessary to automatically log them in to all of the other Windows Live services. All right, so we've laid the groundwork. How do we grow the audience? How do we get more visitors? I mentioned Windows Live Contacts, this unified address book between Hotmail and Messenger. What happens today is go and sign into your favorite social networking site or your favorite tagging and sharing website. And what happens is it says, hey, Angus, welcome to the site, but we detect you have no friends. Why don't you... It's really smart. Artificial intelligence. So after you sign in, it says, hey, why don't you bring the party? Why don't you bring your buddies over to this site? So then it proceeds to ask you for your Windows Live ID credentials. So I type in alogan@live.com and then my password, and I hit go. So now what I've done is I've shared my secret credential pair with evil.com, or even a website that doesn't want to be evil.com. They haven't even shown me the respect to ask for it over HTTPS. So they're asking me for my creds, and they're getting it over HTTP. And they promise they're not going to store it, but they then go in and scrape Hotmail, for example. Or they go in and log you into Messenger. So this is just a bad scene. It's dangerous for users, and when we go and change the user interface in Hotmail, it breaks their application because they're screen scraping. So what we've done is we've put the users at the center of their online experience. So they can go and grant a website permission to access their contacts, or access their photos, or access other services that we add over time. And this is through delegated authentication. Now, the bulk of the scenarios are for invitations. So I want to invite my friends to background motion. Some other scenarios are around address books. On this site, I have a big address book, and in Hotmail, I have an address book, and I want two-way sync. So what we've done is we've created two different modes. And what the real purpose is to give out the minimum amount of information to get the job done. Because that's what... like the minimum amount of information when it comes to contact details is good, because you don't want to give out the 30 fields of profile information when all they need is the email address. So to implement this, you just ask the user to click a link to grant permission, and then you get a token posted back by Windows Live, and then you can programmatically query the Windows Live contact service until the user revokes or their permission grant expires. I'm just going to flip over to this demo here. So let's go and have a look at how this flow works. So I can go to my Friends tab. So on background motion, I just added a little Friends tab in the hope to get some. And what I can do, if I just get my mouse back, is I'm just going to wipe the delegation that I had set up. If I choose to invite my friends here, it pops a link to Windows Live. Oh, I had already granted permission. If you have already granted permission, it sees that you've already granted permission and then just returns it automatically. So I'll show you the revocation. I want to revoke permission that I granted for background motion. So at this website, consent.live.com, this is where I can manage every website that has access to my information, to the contacts that I have granted permission to the photos I've granted permission to. And here I can go and see what action they have, so inviting friends, and what objects they have access to, so all of the email addresses. So I'm just going to revoke permission here. So now, when they call that API next, they're going to get a 401. So they're going to get an error, like a access denied. So I'm just going to reset this, and we'll grant permission again. So this is the consent screen. And we get a lot of feedback around the user experience of this. That, hey, the way I'm doing this today is asking for username and password, and it's all in my experience. It's a really great flow. Like, I can just get their credentials and then go and execute my queries. But that's a really bad scene from user privacy and user security. So we've tried to balance user experience with those privacy and security concerns, and the only way we can really do this is when you hit the live.com websites. So when you hit something.live.com, so you need to grant permission. And the other thing on this page here is we're doing some serious things. We're allowing users to share their information. So they need to be absolutely aware of what they're doing. They need to have the appropriate disclaimers from Microsoft saying, hey, you're going to go give this information out. You need to, as the third party, need to provide a privacy statement so the user can go and see exactly what you're doing with that data. And then also the user's in control of the duration of the delegation. So how long do they grant permission for? And then one big thing that we added here, specifically around contacts, is I could choose which contacts I share. So if I have Steve Barmer on my messenger list, Steve doesn't like it when I share his contact details. So I know Steve's an important guy and I really respect his privacy. So I could go and untick Steve. It's a different Steve, but it doesn't matter. So if I now grant permission, what we've effectively done is ACLed, so set up permissions on that contact list, thrown a token, so it's just a token back to the website. They don't get my username and password, and now they can go and query the Windows Live contact store. And that experience that I just did was the pop-up window posted back to one of my pages, and I called a parent window event. So I called an ASP.NET Ajax panel. So now I can see all of my friends here. I can see that my friends aren't on this site except one of them. So this buddy here, there's an intersection found. So we found out that they're on this site as well. So instead of emailing them to invite them, what I actually want to do is buddy request them. So in-network friend request. So I could just go and view their profile, for example, then I could send a buddy request. If I wanted to invite Catherine to this site, then I could just say invite to site, and that's going and emailing. This entire UX is defined by you, by the third-party website implementing it. But the ground rules are that whatever you're doing with that user's data better be clear in your privacy statement. So don't just get access to the user's data and then republish it out to the world. With great power comes great responsibility, and these users are granting you permission to see their contact list, so you need to respect that. So how we've implemented this, it's really straightforward. You just have a link that gets popped to the consent screen. So there's a lot of different offers that you can ask for. So this is one of the offers, contacts.invite. An offer is basically the types of information you can get at. So contacts.invite, contacts.view, contacts.update, spaces, photos, read. There's a whole lot of different invites. You get that invite from like your whatever flow you're going through, and you build that into a URI for consent.live.com. You need to specify your privacy statement. Right now, I have localhost. That's really bad. That should be angus.com/privacy, because we take this URI and we show that in the consent screen. So you build the URI, you then pop a window out to that screen. After the user clicks approve or reject, they get posted back to a web page on your site. So that could be an ASPX, it could be a handler, or it could be some other type of a page that can consume a post. We then take the Windows Live ID SDK, and we just spin it up, and we choose to process the consent token. So we just throw the entire form.post at that object, and it processes the consent. Now, there's a few different ways of how this works. You can have encrypted tokens for provisioned applications, which is the more secure and the recommended way, or you can have tokens that are transparent that get posted that are short-term. If you use the SDK in those 6 languages, then all of that goo is taken care of. We do all of the encryption and the decryption. So I'd really recommend you use the SDK instead of rolling it your own, or rolling it yourself. So we get this token. We just go and save this against the current user object. And I'm just using some link here to make it really easy. And then to make the experience good, we just close the parent window. Sorry, we call an update in the parent window, then we just close this window. So this page is all about handling the response. So when we get posted back to, take the response, persist it somewhere, and then close the window. The next thing that we can do is import the friend. So this is the event that gets fired from that JavaScript method that I had. And all we do here is we just grab the current user object, because that has the tokens persisted against it. We can get their location ID, so it's like their user ID for Windows Live. We can build out a string, so a REST URI. So live contacts uses the identifier REST invitations by email, or it could be live contacts. There's a whole lot of different endpoints that you can call. And then what you need to do is throw this authentication token. So the token you were given, you need to stick that in the the authorization header. So that's what tells us this user has granted permission. We then go and check that they haven't actually revoked permission or your token hasn't expired. And then we throw a whole lot of XML back at you. So the XML, we just load into an object here. I've created a really lightweight object called friend, which just has their name, their email address, and a bit of other information. I mine that out of the XML. But the interesting thing here is when I check if my friend already exists on this site. So we pull in all of the live contacts, and then we can just run a quick intersection check to see, are my friends already on this site? So then I go and grab their object, their user object, and I build a hyperlink to their page, etc. So net, users can now safely and securely grant your site permission to access their social graph. So the contacts that they have stored in Messenger and in Hotmail. So then you can go and either invite them or build out a social relationship. There's a lot of responsibility using these APIs, but we've got a lot of this, all of it is documented in the terms at dev.live.com. So I'd urge you to go and check that out just to make sure the scenario you're thinking about is a scenario that is allowed, that is sanctioned. So we've got some users to the website. We've made it easy for them to sign into some services. How do we make the site really sticky? Like get the minutes through the roof? Because the measure now isn't page views, it's minutes. How many minutes were users on your site? How do you get the user stuck onto your website so then they bring their friends in, or they use your website so you can refresh the ads and start pumping more kind of value at them? The Windows Live Messenger API is a great API for doing that. This is the first time we've really wrapped an API around the Windows Live Messenger platform. There's a lot of wrappers for MSNP, so the Microsoft protocol, MSN, the Microsoft Network Protocol. That's the underlying protocol of Messenger. But they ask users for their username and password. They're really bad. So what we've done is made it easy for users to sign in to this application. And then as the developer, you own the entire experience. You own the entire UX of how this Messenger application gets built. Now, there's some great examples out there for using this. Keiji Kanazawa is presenting next in this room, and he's going to be going super deep on the Windows Live Messenger library. But there's two demos I just want to call out, aside from the Coca-Cola application. There's Tafiti Search Visualization, which takes the Windows Live Messenger library, added it to Tafiti, which is a Silverlight front end for search. And then when I'm online and my friends are online, I can have a social search experience. So I can share my results with them and real-time update the research that we're doing. That's one example. And the other example is from iBlocks. iBlocks build interactive ads. They build really compelling ads. And we saw this in the keynote, that you need compelling ads to get eyeballs. So what they've done is they've got a thing called the iBlocks Video Messenger. And as an advertiser, you can go and upload all of your videos. They could create a 3D room for you. And these were interesting ads already because they had some interesting media. But now I can go and sign into their ad, and I can start IMing my friends. So I'm stuck onto that ad, stuck onto that application. I can virally share that with my friends. So I want to show you how we go and add the Windows Live Messenger library, just really quickly, because Keiji's going to go into a massive amount of detail on this. Okay. So if we just go to, what I've done is I've got a master page on my site. So everything's done through one master page that wraps around all of the site. And I've just built a user control so I can drop Messenger functionality onto the site on any page. So I'm just going to flag this to visible so we can see it. Now I'll just refresh this page. And over on the right-hand side here, you'll see this little sign-in control. And then down the bottom left, you'll see that Angus has signed in here. So this thing on the top right, this control is the Windows Live Messenger library control. It's the sign-in control. And you use that for a user to click sign in, and they're granting permission for your site to act as the Messenger client on their behalf. So you can add buddies. I think you can block buddies. You can send conversations. You can do a whole lot of things that the text-based messaging functionality in the Messenger client does. Now, this control only really needs to be visible when you sign in. So you just choose to sign in, and then you can go and hide this if you show the appropriate links. So things like the abuse, the download messenger link, a whole lot of things that we have outlined in our design guidelines. Now, when I sign in, it populates a JavaScript object, and that JavaScript object is in your page, so then you can go and do whatever you want with it. You can enumerate the contacts and render those contacts. So here I've got a couple of contacts. So I've got Mark, I can see his personal message here. I've got Steve, I've got my other demo account with quite explicit guidance, do not IM me, I'm on stage right now. And I can go and build interesting experiences, like just a whole lot of JavaScript goo around that. If I was to just click one of these buddies, then this IM window I've designed. So I'm not a graphic designer, but I've been able to just go and drop this into my page somewhere. I could do this in place. I could do it with Silverlight or Flash. We've got examples of both. But right now, this is just HTML. I can send a message, hey, dude. That message is now going to go and get sent into the Windows Live Messenger client or any other endpoint that account is signed into. So it should just appear shortly. The way this works is it hits a HTTP wrapper around the Messenger servers. So there is a small amount of latency. The poll is about 10 to 15 seconds, but it is a little bit faster depending on if you're writing to the cloud or reading from the cloud. So the experience isn't awful. It's quite fast, and it really depends on if the client is on the HTTP endpoint or the normal endpoint. So I've got my chat window here. I can send messages, hey back, and that will go and raise a JavaScript event, which then I can build out in the interface. And for acquisition of users, I could give my visitors a really easy way to invite their friends to the site. So now I've just gone and acquired another visitor through one of my existing consumers. So how do we do this? How do we build it out? What we've got here is just that user control that I built. And this thing could be built in PHP or Ruby or pure HTML. I've just built it in .NET because I work for Microsoft. But all we do is we just reference a JS file that runs on the Windows Live Messenger server. So we just reference this JS, and I've got a reference into my CSS file as well that I've used to define the layout. The rest of this user control is just standard HTML. It's a div for the messenger that wraps contacts, the header around that, and then a contact div that I go and update some DOM objects in. The other thing that I have here is a control where that a div where that sign-in control gets rendered into. So we go and inject an iframe into that div. And then just the last thing we've got is a div for conversation. So when a conversation occurs, I clone this div here. And the other thing that I've done, just to get that cool drag and drop functionality, is I've wrapped this in an Ajax drag panel extender. So just the normal HTML has been wrapped in an ASP.NET Ajax, an Ajax toolkit drag panel extender, so I can drag and drop it. So the layout is completely up to me and my graphic design skills, or my user experience skills. When it comes to the code, it's primarily JavaScript. The library is the JavaScript library. So you need to code this in JavaScript, or you need to code it in something that compiles into JavaScript. There isn't a server-side version of this API. So what we do here is we just spin up a new messenger sign-in control. We pass in that div. We pass in the privacy statement. We pass in the channel, which is our secure interframe messaging. It's used for securely calling across domain. And then we pass in the market. Windows Live Messenger library is localized into about 34 different, Steve is nodding, it's my fact checker, 34 different markets or languages. So you could put this in ZHCN or whatever, Chinese, and it would render in Chinese. Or it would render the UI elements that Microsoft controls into Chinese. Everything else you need to loc yourself. Now, I just want to show you how we send a message because it's really straightforward. Everything pivots off a user object. So we hand you the user object, you get all of their buddies, you can add them, you can list conversations, create conversations. So all we do here, it's like coding.NET because this was actually built in C# and then compiled into JavaScript. So it's the user, get their conversations, get the first conversation, send a message, and then we want to create a new text message with a constructor parameter of message value. So this is just really straightforward JavaScript development. You attach events, you can send messages, you can create conversation. It's really straightforward. KG is going to go into massive detail on this, and we're also going to show you Script Sharp, which is a way for to develop JavaScript, but in C#. So you code in C# and we compile into JavaScript. So there's a lot of different examples on the Messenger library, but the key point here is that you own the experience. After that sign-in control gets clicked, you can hide it if you show the appropriate links, and then the entire messaging look and feel is up to you. And the minutes that you get on your site, so the minutes per page, are going to go through the roof because people turn this into their IM client. All right. So the next thing I want to show you is using Virtual Earth. So this background motion website that we have has a whole lot of data. It's got photos and videos, and they're all they can be tagged geographically. So you can, like on the map, just zoom in and say this photo was taken there, or you could use a geocoding web service to turn text into a geocode. We'll do this using Microsoft Virtual Earth. So we'll visualize this data using Microsoft Virtual Earth. This is our mapping capability, our GIS capability. And I want to show you the JavaScript web map control. It's basically just a JavaScript control. You reference our servers, and we kind of stream the tiles down from there. But the amount of data is astronomical. 15 petabytes of mapping information and 16 million local interest points. So there's just a huge amount of data that you probably never want to have in your own data center, but you want to use. And the other great thing is we keep this data up to date. So we've got lots of different options for going and viewing like geographical information. So we've got bird's eye, which is the obliques. We've got 3D, where we go and fly a plane over and then model 3D buildings. We've got just plain like mapping, so not aerial, like just the data. So there's a lot of different ways to go and integrate Virtual Earth. So I'm going to show you how we can take that data we have today in background motion. So we've uploaded all these photos, and how we can easily render that onto a map, and then what we get for free in terms of that functionality. So firstly, I'll show you the experience. So if I go to this browse site here, then I can go and see a lot of photos. But what I hacked together was just a little show map icon. And when I click show map, that renders the Microsoft Virtual Earth control. There's a whole lot of UX layout or modification that you can do to this dashboard, but I've just left it vanilla. And what we've got, all of these push pins are just pictures of me in crazy places. So me in Bulgaria partying with the guys from Telerik, me in Barcelona, and in Chicago somewhere. So I want to zoom in on that push pin. This is all data I've already uploaded to the website. So if I just center that and zoom in on this push pin, I can see a whole lot of standard mapping information. But that's not really super fun. That's kind of 2001. So what I want to do is flip into in-place 3D mode. Now, I don't know 3D from anything. I don't know how to code 3D. I don't know much about 3D. But what I've gotten from using Virtual Earth is a way to render my information in 3D. So I can now see that there's this park in Chicago that I was at where I got a photo taken. I can see all of the buildings that are mapped in 3D in a super compelling experience. And this is really just gratuitous feature demo right now, but there's some really great stuff you can do. So if the aim of the game on your website is to engage visitors, so you build great experience and you want them to stay on your site for longer, then 3D is just a great way of doing that. So let's just flip into bird's eye mode as well. Just going to zoom in here. Should be able to flip into bird's eye, and this should give me, oh, I think something's happened in my browser. Just go to hybrid. So I should be able to pull up some bird's eye here and then see this in a photosynth-like experience. And something's happened in my browser, so it's not coming up. So let me show you how I coded this. If you do get the chance, go out to local.live.com or spin up the map control and have a look at 3D and then flip it into bird's eye, because it actually shows you all of the bird's eye tiles and lays them straight over the top of the 3D model. It's a really interesting experience, and you'll be stuck there for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so in terms of the code, how did I do this? I created a user control that I just dropped into one of my pages. That's just standard .NET GUI. But the map, like the way you integrate Virtual Earth is primarily through JavaScript. So I reference the JavaScript file that we have running on our servers, and you just create an instance of the map. So new VE map and then the div that I want to spin that up in. You set the zoom level, and then I've set an asynchronous event of after the map is loaded, show my photos on the map. And what show photos on the map does is it just says, get a VE shape source specification, and here's the place to go and get that type of content. So GeoRSS. And right now I'm just using an ASPX, but you could use a handler or a web service or anything else like that. So we spin up the map and we tell it, go fetch some GeoRSS from blah. So what happens on that GeoRSS page when we want to go and, where we're going to render that data from, the GeoRSS, is all I do is I just query the content I have that I've got geotagged. I get a string builder. I could have done this in a more elegant way, but I basically just enumerate each of the contributions, so the pictures. I spit out a specific XML block, so the description, the icon, the lat long, and then a link. I spit that back out, and the Virtual Earth map control can consume that data and plot it straight away. So I've literally just written a chunk of .NET GUI to render data in GeoRSS and a few lines of JavaScript, and I get that really kind of exciting, compelling application where I can visualize data in 3D, and that's just like the users want to play with it, they want to stay with it. It's just a good experience all around. So there's a lot of information on Virtual Earth at dev.live.com. There's a full interactive SDK which goes into massive amounts of detail on how you do each feature. So the interactive SDK for Virtual Earth is an extremely good learning utility. The last thing I want to show you is how do you provide the best experience with Silverlight? So Silverlight, Silverlight, Silverlight. That's all you're going to hear at this conference. And the keynote is evidence of that. But what we've done in the Windows Live team to make Silverlight development easy, or the experience of using Silverlight, is we've carved out a chunk of our data center, and we allow you to go and upload your content, primarily media, to our service. And then when you instantiate that Silverlight app, you can point to our media, or you can point to the application running on our servers across the content distribution network. So your visitors get that Silverlight application, but super fast, super low latency. We've got servers geolocated all around the world. The big changes that we've made for Silverlight is we announced this in alpha last year at MIX, and it's now in beta. But what we're doing is we said, initially we said 1 million minutes and 4 gigabytes of content stored for free. And the 1 million minutes was per month. What we've done now is we've said you can store 10 gigabytes of content in the Windows Live Silverlight streaming service, and we will stream up to 5 terabytes of that for free per month. So I don't know who here pays for data, but that's a fairly good deal. So you can upload your content, and then we will stream 5 terabytes per month for free. And we've also taken the maximum kilobits per second from 700, which was really high quality, like compelling content, up to 1400 kilobits. We can't officially call it HD. We need to call it HQ because there are some video zealots out there that say 19.2 megabits is the only HD. But this is extremely high quality content that you can embed in your applications and it won't impact your serving capability from your website. There are some APIs around this in terms of REST APIs. There's a WebDAV API, so you can now do file-by-file management. And what we've also introduced after looking at the behavior from the alpha, we've introduced transcode in the sky. So what happened in the alpha was most people using the service would primarily use it for media. So they would just wrap a really lightweight app and then they'd upload their video content as an example. So what we decided to do was make that super easy for end users, so either prosumers, so people that want more out of Soapbox or YouTube, or the content producers, so the designer that's editing awesome videos that knows nothing about Silverlight, or just people that upload video. What we've done is we've wrapped the whole video loading experience to make it really easy. So I can just sign in with my Windows Live ID. Just signing in here. So I'll just sign in with my Windows Live ID. If you don't have a Silverlight streaming account, it takes about 20 seconds to read the terms of use and then agree to them. But when you sign in, there's a few different things you get here. So you can manage your account. So these are your API keys. We give you an ability to roll your API keys in case you accidentally leak them. We give you the ability to manage applications. So this is uploading Silverlight apps into our data center. And then we give you the video management capability. So I'm going to show you video management. So if I choose video management here, I could upload a video, and the only video I have is a MOV file. Silverlight doesn't speak MOV. Silverlight doesn't speak a couple of other formats as well. But as the prosumer or the content producer, I've got a MOV file. And I don't need all the power of using expression encoder or using something else to encode this into a WMV. So all I need to do is just upload this MOV, and I'm just going to give it a time and upload it. And what we're doing is we're just throwing that MOV up into the cloud. We then transcode that, and we will wrap it in a default player for you. So it's super easy to get that media up there. Now, there's a couple of things. The question you've probably got is, hey, Angus, how long does it take? Well, you're about to find out. It takes between 1.2 and 2x the duration, and that's just transcode duration. The other question is there an API around this? Are you guys saying you're going to become a massive CPU in the sky that we can melt down transcoding all of our content? Right now, there isn't an API around this. We're really going for the kind of people that create video content. We do have future plans to do an API, but we're just not there in terms of figuring out, is this the place we want to put the Microsoft transcode service for all of the net? So it's just processing here, and we see that that video has been processed, and I'll choose to acknowledge it. So now I can go into any application. I'll just select that application. If I wanted to drop this on my website, I could choose to iframe it. There's a whole lot of different ways that I can instantiate the Silverlight application. And if I wanted to preview it, I could just view it here. It spins up the Silverlight application. It uses one of the new Expression 2 templates, so it doesn't autoplay. And we see some video of super exciting content of curling coming off the content distribution network. Just for the record, it's extremely hard to find a MOV file, so I hope these people aren't in the witness protection program. I just pulled it off CorpNet somewhere. So really, Silverlight streaming is about us giving you a chunk of our data center, a place for you to store your Silverlight content, your apps and your media, and then deliver the best experience for your end users. Because no one wants to use a Silverlight app if it's super slow. If you're based in Australia and the user is based in the UK, then they will get high performance anyway, because we use a content distribution network. Let me just roll my API key now that I shared it. Okay. So I've shown you how to get new users to your website, so get more visitors. And I've shown you how to keep them engaged, so get people always coming back to your site and inviting their friends. I just really want to quickly cover the developer tooling. Windows Live Tools for VS. It's a CTP. I've shown you a little bit of it. You can go and download it from Connect. We're looking at moving that on to Download Microsoft, like the Download Microsoft service, but you can go and check it out on Connect or dev.live.com/tools. One thing that you may or may not be aware of is a service called Astoria. So, sorry, a set of tools. So Astoria, or officially known as ADO.NET Data Services. This is both a development tool and a service, but what it allows you to do is program against services, like service endpoints, with .NET really easily. Like you can write link queries across a REST endpoint. So what we've done is we've released a couple of CTP, Atom Pub endpoints. So photos and application-based storage are Atom Pub endpoints. And the Astoria bits that you may or may not get access to this week, sorry, I just can't announce it. The Astoria bits basically allow you to just write code really easily. Pablo Castro is presenting a whole kind of a presentation on Atom Pub and Astoria, and it would definitely be worth you going and checking out if you're interested in using .NET to code against services via REST and Atom Pub. The one place you need to go to get more information is dev.live.com. This is the developer portal for everything Windows Live. We just launched the new version of it, so it now looks very nice, and there's a whole lot of great content there. There's interactive SDKs, there's reference stock up in MSDN, there's a whole lot of forums there. So this is the place where you can go and get all of the developing on Windows Live information. And the last thing I want to call out is just the quick applications, which are a set of 7 open source apps that are end-to-end scenarios. So we basically work with vendors, we work with Microsoft partners and customers to build great applications. We then get them security reviewed, and then we open source them. We put them on Codeplex. We want you to go and look at this code for technical reference, to get some ideas, and then also to take and sell, to bootstrap your organization using Windows Live. There's a lot of sessions at MIX about Windows Live platform. So if you don't want to write these down, just email me, alogan@microsoft.com, and I will send you a meeting request of all of these sessions. But basically, Keiji Kanazawa is in this room next, and he's going deep on the messenger capabilities. There's a panel for social networks. There's a Virtual Earth session. There's the Atom Pub session that Pablo Castro is doing. And then Remy is presenting Silverlight streaming in detail. So with that, the Windows Live platform really helps you drive user engagement and acquire new users. We have made progress since MIX07. There's still a lot of services that we don't have Go Live licenses for, that we really just want to give you a heads up on what we're thinking about. But go to dev.live.com, start playing with the technology, and if you're a .NET developer or you're just used to coding JavaScript and coding against services, it should be a fairly natural kind of flow in terms of adopting these services. So with that, are there any questions? Yes?
What exactly is the difference between the Live ID sign-in and your Messenger sign-in? Why can't that Messenger sign-in take you already signed in with Live ID into that site. Why couldn't it just read that in?
Okay, so the question was, if when I signed in with Live ID on that Messenger website, or on the website that used Messenger, why did I need to click sign in again? Like that seems really counterintuitive. That I sign in with Live ID and then I sign in with Messenger. When you sign in to a Messenger site, so a site that uses Messenger, I'm just going to show a really quick demo. This URI is out on the net as well, if anyone wants to play with it. Angus Background Motion MS Live Labs int. Now, this sign-in box here, you basically give that application access to a lot of your information when you sign into Messenger. So even though I have a valid live.com cookie, being authenticated with Live ID and signing into Messenger are two distinct things. So right now I'm authenticated. So I'm Angus at live or alogan at live.com, but I need to sign into Messenger. So when I sign in for that first time, like the very first time on that domain, it says, hey, you haven't signed in on this domain before. Do you want to sign in automatically? Which is what most people would do. If you have a live.com cookie, it will just automatically auth you through. Or you could do manual sign-in. And we outline all of the information that we're giving out to that third party within the JavaScript object. So that's the reason. Authentication and sign-in are different actions. I've only got about another minute, so that guy put his hand up really fast.
Do the Messenger libraries API have the ability to access the avatar and images of the user?
So the question is, the Messenger library, can you access the avatar and the images of the users? So right now, we allow you to access the current user's image. So if we go to iblocks.com video messenger, I'm just going to sign in to show you this. So these guys have implemented the Messenger library, and you see it automatically signed me in because I granted them permission and I had a live.com cookie. You can see my avatar here, but if I go and start talking with a buddy, then right now we don't render his avatar. So the answer is my avatar is exposed, and we give you a URI for that image, but my friend's isn't. And I think that's just a shortcoming of the platform right now. And Steve said he'll fix it next week. No, email me, alogan@microsoft.com, or go to the Messenger forum or the Messenger blog, and we can help communicate some of these things to you. All right, one last question, and then I got to call it quits. Yo.
One of the things that you showed earlier that interested me was the login.live page where you can kind of style the whole page.
Yep.
Your website. Two questions. How long till it's available? And more importantly, if you're creating a new live ID through that process, do those subsequent pages also have the ability to be kind of styled like those areas, the same site experience?
Yeah. Is that John Arking?
Yes, it is.
I've never met you, but I've read your book. I've read your book on Windows Live Development. It's a fantastic plug as well. So the question was, like that sign-in page, when it's branded, or when you create that branded experience, if someone signs up from that site, is the branded experience going to continue through? So if we have a customized login page, does that branding continue through to the sign-up page? We're not absolutely certain yet. I don't think we've locked that level of detail. We know that we need to provide the branding capability, and we've provided it in different ways already with different technology. But if you do need to build a really nice kind of looking sign-up application, so creating Windows Live IDs for your visitors, there's an API, which is outlined in John Arking's book, for Windows Live Admin Center. Shameless. But you can programmatically create live IDs off your own domain. So users.angus.com could build a live ID or create a live ID for John. All right, so I'm going to be out in the open space, but Keiji Kanazawa is in here next. So thank you very much for coming, and go to dev.live.com.